The abandoned ship. The maintenance bay of the Stellar Sentinel echoed with the dull clanking of tools against metal as Zarak inspected the ship's deteriorating environmental regulators. His four upper appendages worked in perfect synchronization, a testament to years of experience, while his lower limbs anchored him to the maintenance shaft. The blue-gray scales covering his slender body reflected the dim emergency lighting that had become the norm over the past 18 cycles. Status report. Technician Zarak. Commander Vexen's voice rasped through the comm unit, the usual crisp tones of a high-echelon Tessarian, now strained with barely contained stress. Environmental systems operating at 28% efficiency, Commander, Zarak replied, his voice calm despite the dire reading. Primary coolant valves have completely failed. I've implemented a bypass using secondary systems, but without replacement parts. He left the sentence unfinished. They both knew what it meant. It had been 32 cycles since the Stellar Sentinel, pride of the Galactic Confederation's exploratory fleet, had encountered what Science Officer Mira had enthusiastically labeled a previously undocumented spatial anomaly. The excitement in her voice had lasted precisely 4 minutes before the anomaly tore through the ship's quantum drive, leaving them adrift in a seldom-traveled sector of space, 6 light-years from the nearest Confederation outpost. Zarak sealed the panel and made his way through the narrow maintenance corridors toward the command center. At each junction, the evidence of their deteriorating situation became more apparent. Crew members from non-essential departments sat in huddled groups, their bodily hues faded from the vibrant blues and greens of health to the dull gray of conservation mode, a biological response to limited resources that slowed metabolism, but also cognitive function. As a mere technician, Zarak held the lowest rank among the 63 crew members. Born on an outer colony world, rather than the prestigious home planets, he had spent his entire career fighting against the subtle prejudice of the high-echelon officers. Now, with death approaching, those distinctions seemed particularly meaningless. The command center doors whispered open, revealing a scene of controlled tension. Commander Vexen stood rigidly at the central console, his 7-foot frame casting a long shadow across the displays. Science Officer Mira hovered nearby, all 6 of her sensory stalks twitching in that rapid pattern that indicated extreme anxiety. Chief Engineer Kelvik slumped in his station, mechanically running the same diagnostic programs that had failed to yield solutions for the past 30 cycles. 33rd distress signal transmitted. Commander, Communications Officer Trell announced, her voice hollow. Broadcasting on all Confederation frequencies as ordered. Vexen didn't acknowledge the report. Everyone knew the Confederation protocol. Rescue missions were authorized only when the probability of success exceeded 70%, and the resource expenditure was justified by the value of the vessel and crew. A damaged exploratory vessel in uncharted space simply didn't qualify. Life support reserves at 17%, the ship's automated system announced with inappropriate cheerfulness. Estimated time to critical failure, 38 hours. Zarak took his position at the maintenance console, quietly running diagnostics on the remaining functional systems. His species was not prone to emotional displays, but even he felt the creeping dread of their situation. The Tessarians prided themselves on logical thinking and careful planning. There was something particularly undignified about dying due to an unforeseen anomaly, adrift and forgotten. The silence of the command center was broken by an unexpected sound, the distinct chime of an incoming transmission. The crew collectively stiffened, hope briefly flaring before reality reasserted itself. Transmission origin. Vexen demanded, his neck frill extending slightly. The closest a Tessarian came to showing excitement. Trell's manipulators danced across her console. It's not. Not on any Confederation frequency, she stammered. The signal pattern is. It appears to be. Speak clearly, officer, Vexen snapped. Human, Commander. It's a human vessel. The atmosphere in the command center shifted instantly. Neck frills flattened against bodies, and sensory stalks retracted defensively. Humans were a relatively new presence in galactic society, having achieved faster-than-light travel only 3 centuries earlier. Unlike the methodical expansion of the Confederation species, humans had burst onto the interstellar scene with characteristic impulsiveness and unpredictability. "Ignore it," Vexen ordered immediately. "Maintain Confederation protocols." Zarak looked up from his console, surprised. "Commander, with respect, our situation." "Was I unclear, technician?" Vexen's voice carried the full weight of his authority. "The Stellar Sentinel will maintain Confederation protocols until the end." The transmission chime sounded again, more insistent this time. "They're requesting direct communication, Commander," Trell reported, her lower limbs shifting uneasily. "They claim to have received our distress signal and are offering assistance." "Humans," Science Officer Mira whispered, her voice holding a mixture of fear and fascination. "Their outpost in the Proxima system puts them closer to our position than any Confederation vessel." "Irrelevant," Vexen replied. "The risks associated with human interference far outweigh any potential benefits." "With respect, Commander," Chief Engineer Kelvik spoke up, his voice raspy from disuse. "What exactly are those risks compared to our certain death in 38 hours? Vexen's neck frill extended fully, a sign of extreme agitation. "The humans cannot be trusted. Their historical records show erratic behavior, emotional decision-making, and complete disregard for established protocols. They're barely more than primitives with faster-than-light technology." The transmission chimed a third time. "Stellar Sentinel, this is Captain Maya Rodriguez of the Earth Interstellar Alliance vessel Artemis." A voice filled the command center, speaking perfect galactic standard, but with the distinctive cadence of human speech. "We've received your distress signal and are approximately 18 hours from your position. Please respond with your status and requirements. We stand ready to assist." The casual, almost conversational tone contrasted sharply with the formal communication protocols of the Confederation. No proper identification codes, no authorization sequences, just a direct offer of help. "Terminate that transmission immediately," Vexen commanded. Trell hesitated, her manipulators hovering over the console. "Commander, regulations require acknowledgement of all communication attempts, even from non-Confederation species." "I am well aware of regulations, Officer." Vexen's voice dropped dangerously. "Acknowledge and decline their offer." "Site Protocol TQR-7 regarding non-interference in Confederation matters." Zarak watched silently as Trell composed the message, feeling a growing unease. He had never encountered humans personally, but the Confederation educational programs had been quite clear about them. Unpredictable, emotional, prone to irrational decisions, and dangerous impulses. Yet something about dismissing their offer of assistance when facing certain death seemed illogical. "Message transmitted, Commander," Trell announced. "I've informed them that we appreciate their concern, but must decline assistance per Confederation protocols." "Excellent," Vexen nodded with satisfaction. "Now we can proceed with dignity." The ship lurched suddenly, throwing several crew members from their stations. The lighting flickered ominously, and a harsh alarm began to sound throughout the vessel. "Primary power coupling failure in Section 12, the ship's computer announced. "Life support reserves now at 13%. Estimated time to critical failure, 22 hours. "That's impossible," Kelvik muttered, frantically checking his displays. "We should have had at least 38 hours left." The reality of their situation crashed down on the command center. 22 hours. Not even a full day cycle. Their deaths, previously an abstract inevitability, were now imminent. "I'll attempt to reroute power from non-essential systems," Zarak offered, already moving toward the maintenance access tunnel. "Belay that," Vexen ordered. "All personnel will remain at their stations. We will continue to broadcast distress signals on Confederation frequencies and maintain log updates until the end." Zarak paused, his inner eyelids flickering in the Tessarian equivalent of disbelief. "Commander, with respect, I believe I can extend life support by at least 6 hours if I... Your belief is noted, technician. Vexen cut him off. But as we face our end, we will do so with the dignity and discipline expected of Confederation officers. As Zarak returned to his station, the transmission chimes sounded yet again. Trell checked her console, her neck frill twitching nervously. The human vessel is still transmitting. Commander, she hesitated. They say our response contained inconsistencies that suggest a more severe situation than acknowledge. They're requesting visual confirmation of our status. Humans. Vexen spat the word like a curse. Arrogant, presumptuous creatures. They cannot accept a simple rejection. Science Officer Mira moved closer to Vexen, her voice low. Commander, perhaps we should reconsider. The historical data on humans does suggest one positive trait. They have shown a persistent tendency to attempt rescues even when the probability of success is low, which only confirms their irrationality. Vexen replied dismissively. No, Officer Mira. We will maintain Confederation protocols until the end. That is my final word on the matter. As the command center fell into tense silence, Zarak found himself staring at the communications console, where the human transmission request still flashed. 22 hours to live, he thought. 22 hours of maintaining protocols, preserving hierarchy, and dying with dignity, or the possibility of something else. For the first time in his career, Zarak began considering options that fell outside Confederation protocols. The unexpected saviors. 18 hours later, the stellar sentinel was dying. Emergency lighting cast eerie shadows across the corridors as Zarak moved silently through the maintenance tunnels. Life support had dropped to critical levels in 3 of the 7 ship sections, and the command center was operating on minimal power. Commander Vexen had ordered all crew to remain at their stations, maintaining logs and records until the end, a final act of dedication to Confederation principles. But Zarak had stopped following those orders 4 hours ago, when he'd made his decision. The auxiliary communications bay was deserted, as he'd expected. With the main communication systems still functional, there was no reason for anyone to be here. Zarak sealed the door behind him and activated the console, inputting his maintenance override codes. This is Maintenance Technician Zarak of the Confederation vessel Stellar Sentinel. He spoke quietly into the transmitter, using the human communication frequency he'd secretly copied from Trell's console. Our situation is critical. Life support failing. Command refusing assistance for cultural reasons. If you can help us, please respond directly to these coordinates. He transmitted the exact location of the auxiliary docking port, then quickly erased all evidence of the transmission. What he had just done violated at least 7 Confederation protocols and could be classified as treason. In the normal order of things, such an act would result in his immediate removal from service and permanent reassignment to a penal colony. But nothing about their current situation was normal, and Zarak could not reconcile himself to dying for the sake of prejudice disguised as protocol. The response came faster than he had anticipated, barely 30 seconds later. Technician Zarak, this is Captain Maya Rodriguez of the Artemis. We've been monitoring your ship's deterioration and are already en route to your position. ETA 4 hours. Hang in there. We're coming. The casual phrase, hang in there, was not one he was familiar with, but the meaning seemed clear enough. Nevertheless, he felt a flutter of anxiety. 4 hours. According to the latest systems diagnostic, the Sentinel had perhaps 5 hours of life support remaining. It would be close. Zarak returned to the command center, where the atmosphere had shifted from tense professionalism to resigned acceptance. Several officers had entered the preliminary stages of hibernation, their bodies shutting down non-essential functions to preserve the little oxygen that remained. Commander Vexen sat rigidly in his command chair, dictating what appeared to be his final log entry. Science Officer Mira was still at her station, methodically cataloging data from the spatial anomaly that had doomed them, knowledge that would never reach the Confederation. Technician Zarak. Vexen acknowledged his return without turning. Status of Section 4 Environmental Systems. Failed completely. Commander, Zarek replied truthfully. I've sealed the bulkheads to preserve atmosphere in the remaining sections. Vexen nodded approvingly. Excellent. Proper procedure until the end. The irony of the situation was not lost on Zarek. He continued performing his duties as expected, checking systems that could not be repaired and logging failures that would never be addressed. And all the while, he counted down the minutes, wondering if he had made the right decision or merely hastened their end through human intervention. 3 hours and 22 minutes later, the ship's proximity alert sounded, a harsh, unexpected noise in the dying vessel. Unidentified ship approaching, the computer announced. Configuration unknown, not matching any Confederation registry. Vexen's head snapped up, his neck frill extending in alarm. What? Trell, report. The communications officer struggled to focus, her body already beginning to shut down from oxygen deprivation. It appears to be a human vessel, Commander, the one that contacted us earlier. I ordered you to reject their assistance. Vexen rose unsteadily to his feet. How dare they approach without authorization? Zarek watched the situation unfold, saying nothing. On the main view screen, a ship appeared, sleek and functional rather than elegant, its design prioritizing practicality over aesthetics in a way that seemed characteristically human. They're hailing us, Commander, Trell reported weakly. Ignore them, Vexen ordered, but his voice lacked conviction. The view screen activated anyway, revealing the face of a human female. Her skin was a rich brown, her hair pulled back tightly, and her expression one of focused determination. Stellar Sentinel, this is Captain Maya Rodriguez of the Artemis. We are prepared to begin emergency rescue operations. Our scans indicate critical life support failure in multiple sections of your vessel. Please prepare your crew for immediate evacuation. Vexen straightened, summoning his remaining strength. This is Commander Vexen of the Confederation vessel Stellar Sentinel. Your presence here violates Confederation protocols. We have not requested or authorized your assistance. The human captain's expression shifted subtly. A raising of eyebrows that Zarek had learned indicated surprise or disbelief. With respect, Commander, she replied, her tone unchanged. Your ship is approximately 40 minutes from complete life support failure. We picked up both your official distress signal and received additional communication regarding your situation. We're initiating rescue protocols immediately. Zarek tensed, waiting for the inevitable accusation, but it never came. The human captain had deliberately avoided mentioning his unauthorized transmission. This is outrageous, Vexen began, but was interrupted by a harsh coughing fit as his respiratory system struggled with the thinning atmosphere. Commander, please, Science Officer Mira spoke up, her voice barely audible. We should consider. Stellar Sentinel, we're detecting multiple hull breaches developing along your port side. Captain Rodriguez cut in, her tone becoming more urgent. Our engineers believe your structural integrity is compromised. We're initiating emergency docking procedures at the auxiliary port. Zarek noticed she specified the exact location he had transmitted to them. I forbid this, Vexen gasped, but the protest sounded hollow even to Zarek's ears. On the view screen, Captain Rodriguez's expression hardened slightly. Commander, I understand and respect your protocols. But there is a human protocol that takes precedence in situations like this. We don't leave people to die when we can help, regardless of species, politics, or protocols. My crew is preparing to board. Rodriguez out. The screen went blank, leaving the command center in stunned silence. This is unacceptable, Vexen wheezed, his scales turning a sickly pale color as his oxygen levels dropped dangerously low. The ship shuddered slightly, and a new alert sounded. Emergency docking procedure initiated at Auxiliary Port 7. The computer announced. Warning, unauthorized access detected. Zarek made his decision. I'll go meet them, he said, already moving toward the exit. To to ensure they respect proper Confederation procedures, he added when Vexen's gaze fixed on him suspiciously. The corridors leading to the auxiliary docking port were already in near darkness, the emergency lighting failing as power reserves dwindled. Zarak moved quickly, his body protesting the exertion in the oxygen-poor environment. As he approached the docking area, he heard the unmistakable sound of the airlock cycling. The inner door slid open, revealing 5 figures in form-fitting environmental suits. The lead figure removed her helmet, revealing the same face he had seen on the view screen. "Captain Maya Rodriguez, Technician Zarak?" she asked, her gaze finding him immediately. "Yes," he confirmed, surprised. "How did you?" "You're the only one who seemed concerned with actual survival rather than protocol," she replied with a slight curve of her lips that he recognized as a smile. "We need to move quickly. Our scans show your life support is failing faster than predicted." The other humans had already begun unloading equipment, portable atmosphere generators, medical kits, and what appeared to be emergency transport stretchers. "Your commander and bridge crew?" Rodriguez asked as her team worked with practiced efficiency. "Still in the command center. Many are already entering hibernation due to oxygen deprivation." Rodriguez nodded. "We'll start there. Lead the way." As they moved through the ship, Rodriguez explained their plan. "We can't safely transport all 63 of your crew at once. The Artemis will stabilize the Sentinel's life support temporarily while we evacuate in groups. Most critical cases first." The practical, no-nonsense approach was so different from the hierarchical Confederation protocols that Zarak found himself momentarily disoriented. In a Confederation rescue, the highest-ranking officers would be evacuated first, regardless of medical condition. When they reached the command center, the scene was grim. Several officers had collapsed entirely, while others, including Commander Vexen, were barely conscious. The human medical team immediately began assessing the crew, attaching small devices to the most severely affected. "What are you doing?" Zarak asked as one of the humans approached Vexen with a strange instrument. "Oxygen infuser," the human explained. "Temporary measure to stabilize his condition for transport." Commander Vexen's eyes fluttered open as the device was attached. "This is against protocol," he managed to whisper. Captain Rodriguez knelt beside him. "I understand, Commander. You can file a formal complaint once you're safely aboard the Artemis. For now, please allow my team to do their job." The evacuation proceeded with remarkable efficiency. The human showed no hesitation in handling alien physiology, having apparently studied Tessarian biological data before arriving. The most critical cases were stabilized and transported first, while another team worked to temporarily restore life support in the central sections of the ship. As they worked, a violent shudder ran through the stellar Sentinel. Warning alarms blared from multiple stations. "Structural integrity compromised in sections 3 through 5, the computer announced. "Catastrophic failure imminent." "We need to move faster," Rodriguez ordered her team. "Zarak, we'll need your help to access the crew quarters in the lower decks." Together, they'd raced against the ship's accelerating collapse, retrieving crew members who had retreated to hibernation chambers or who had been trapped when emergency bulkheads sealed. Throughout it all, Zarak observed the humans with growing fascination. They worked seamlessly, adapting to new challenges without hesitation, making split-second decisions based on a combination of training and intuition. During the evacuation of the engineering section, a support beam collapsed, trapping 2 Tessarian crew members. Without hesitation, 2 of the human rescuers physically braced the failing structure with their own bodies, while a third extracted the injured aliens. The self-sacrificing action was entirely contrary to everything Zarak had been taught about humans. 27 hours after their arrival, Captain Rodriguez made the final sweep of the stellar Sentinel with Zarak at her side. All 63 crew members had been evacuated to the Artemis, where they were receiving medical treatment. "That's everyone," Zarak confirmed as they returned to the auxiliary docking port. "The ship's core systems are failing. Complete structural collapse is inevitable. Rodriguez nodded, a strange expression crossing her face as she took a final look at the dying ship. "It's never easy, watching a vessel go down," she said softly, "even when it's not your own." The sentiment surprised Zorak. The Confederation approach would have been purely practical. The ship was an asset that had become a liability, nothing more. This emotional connection to an inanimate object was characteristically human, and yet not entirely alien to him. Once aboard the Artemis, Zorak was struck by the differences in design and atmosphere. Where Confederation vessels were arranged according to strict hierarchical principles, the human ship seemed organized for maximum efficiency and comfort. Crew members of apparently different ranks worked side by side, and the command structure, while clear, was far more fluid than he was accustomed to. Commander Vexen and the other senior officers had been placed in the medical bay, where they were recovering under the care of human physicians. The remaining crew were distributed throughout the vessel in temporary quarters, adapting with varying degrees of comfort to their unexpected salvation. Captain Rodriguez invited Zorak to the bridge, an honor that would never have been extended to a mere technician on a Confederation vessel. "Your crew is stable," she informed him. "We've set course for the nearest Confederation outpost. Travel time approximately 12 days at our current speed." "Thank you," Zorak said, the words feeling insufficient. "You risked much to save us, against our own wishes, even." Rodriguez smiled slightly. "Not the first time we've been told to go away, and then thanked for ignoring the instruction." She paused, studying him. "Your transmission saved your crew, you know. We were about to respect your commander's wishes when we received it." Zorak's neck frill flattened in embarrassment. "I violated Confederation protocols." "You chose life over protocol," she corrected, something we humans tend to appreciate. As he looked around the bridge of the Artemis, seeing humans, and now Tessarians working together to plot their course home, Zorak realized his perspective had shifted irrevocably. Everything he had been taught about humans, their unpredictability, their emotional decision-making, their disregard for established protocols, was true. But what the Confederation educational programs had failed to mention was that these same characteristics enabled humans to adapt, to innovate, and most importantly, to extend help even when it wasn't requested. "I believe I may have been misinformed about humans," Zorak admitted quietly. Captain Rodriguez laughed, a sound that would have been considered inappropriate on a Confederation vessel, but seemed perfectly natural here. "That works both ways. Technician Zorak, we have quite a lot to learn about each other." She extended her hand in what he recognized as a human greeting gesture. "Perhaps we can start now." Zorak carefully extended his upper right appendage, completing the human handshake, and with it, taking the first step toward a new understanding between their species.